MVP and Discraft tease us with huge sponsorship announcements, and Paige Pierce makes her debut at the Australasia Open. Let's talk about it. Welcome back, everyone, to Understable Discourse, the show where you go to listen to disc golf news brought to you in a fun way where we can talk about things. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the Australasia Open, which is the second stop for the Go Throw Tour Down Under, and talk about contracts. There's only 6 weeks left until the season officially starts with the Supreme Flight Open, and there are some major names on the table, some announcements we haven't had yet, and teasers being put out by MVP and Discraft that we really should talk about. So today we're going to kind of get into those things and see where it goes from here. But we're going to start off with the Tour Down Under as we take a moment to look at the next event coming up, because I really feel there's a lot of value in looking at the Tour Down Under. When you look at last year and what happened with several players getting their first legitimate wins on new bags down there, and then coming out and winning the very first event of the year with the Supreme Flight Open, that stands to reason that going down there and being successful is a great way to get yourself started coming into the main season on the DGPT, or what's now the Disc Golf Pro Tour presented by Powerball. So looking at the upcoming event, we have the 2026 Australasia Open, sponsored by Discraft. And honestly, it's great to see Discraft and other large sponsors getting involved with the Tour Down Under. We know that MVP was named as the presenting sponsor for the Tour Down Under, and it would be great to see that continue to grow. This series is fantastic. The locations that they're playing at are some of the most beautiful in the world that I've ever seen. If you've never watched a Tour Down Under event, you really need to go check them out because they're covered so fantastically, and there are enough really great players that you'll recognize the names, and you'll get to see some players that you've never seen before. And trust me, if you haven't been watching it, you're sleeping on some of those players, especially Levi Stout. I know I keep shouting him out. The kid is fantastic, but you got some other really awesome players down there as well representing the Kiwis. So the course they're going to be playing for the Australasia Open is, first of all, the event was known as the Taupo Open last year and the year before, and it's going down at Spa Park in Taupo, New Zealand. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I think I have it right, but we try to be as close as we can out there respectfully to the names. But it's a very beautiful course. It's difficult. It uses the natural countryside and the elevation very well. And the wind is kind of always a bit of a factor out there. And last year we saw this event taken down by Aidan Scott with a heated battle between Aidan and Robert Burridge and a few others. He won by 6 strokes, shot 26 under par, and on the FPO side we saw Emily Weatherman taking down Sophia Donica in a 1-stroke difference as a heated battle between them kind of went down. When you look at the field for this particular event, we're seeing the same kind of thing we saw last year, because it's the second event of the Tour Down Under. It's given some players a little more time to get down to New Zealand, so the field is getting stronger than the week before, and we're going to probably see that as it goes forward. With the FPO field having players like Paige Pierce making her debut, Kat Murch, Sophia Donica, Sarah Hokum, Taylor Chosick, and Jennifer Smiley, who just won the first event, the Taranaki Open, against Taylor Chosick. And then same thing with the MPO side. You have Bradley Williams, Corey Ellis, Paul Oman, Levi Stout, Aidan Scott, Jeremy Colling, and Luke Humphreys. So some solid players down there as well for the MPO field. When you look at the fields, you look at the course itself, based upon what I'm seeing, I feel like this is going to be the kind of event that Paige Pierce is able to take down. But having just traveled there, there's the concern about, is there going to be any kind of jet lag or whatever that may be for her. But I think her skills are just so solid above the rest of the competition that she should be able to win this one pretty easily. Kat Murch is the only person in that conversation of are her skills on par with Page's? And the answer there, in my opinion, is yes. It's just we have not seen Kat's game come together very well recently, especially down there. So while I believe Kat Mertsch is fully capable of winning this event, I think Paige Pierce is going to be the one who takes it down over on the FPO side. For MPO, though, it's really hard because part of me wants to definitely just lock in Levi Stout with his big win at Taranaki, a definitive win over the field. Levi did struggle a little bit at Taupo last year. And, we have players like Aiden Scott, who won last season. We have Corey Ellis, who won this event 2 years ago. And you also have really solid players like Bradley Williams and Big Germ, who've kind of made a name for themselves as being successful with the Tour Down Under. Personally, for me, I don't expect a repeat win from Aiden Scott here. I think that it's going to come down really to Corey Ellis. And I think he takes down the win over a close battle with Levi and Bradley Williams. So I've got Corey Ellis winning the Australasia Open. And all that's going to be starting this upcoming Friday. You can check that out over on the Go Throw YouTube channel. I highly suggest you go watch it. They're currently releasing the FPO coverage from the Taranaki Open on the Go Throw channel right now. You should watch that as well. Go out there and support that side of things. We want to show them that we want to see FPO coverage while they're out there as well, and make it a case that both MPO and FPO are worth having out there. So please go ahead and give that a watch. As we look now into, I would say, the meat of the conversation that's on the table going into the 2026 season, are contracts. There are, like I said, only 6 weeks to go until the Supreme Flight Open comes out. So we have players that are still just in the wind with announcements. We have, manufacturers that are kind of in the wind. And so there are 2 major teams that have not super announced big changes. We've got Discraft and MVP. And MVP gave everyone really cryptic posts over the past week regarding their Project Lab Coat, which turned out to kind of just be about white rims and some redefined stamps, and that kind of stirred up a lot of emotions in people wanting this to be some major announcement of a team, and it kind of was a letdown for a lot of people. But MVP came out with another kind of wrinkle in that, with a post showing 4 dates and 4 pixelated silhouettes. The dates being January 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st. And people have been sitting around trying to match up those silhouettes with known images of players across the internet. And what we're kind of seeing is there are some pretty strong feelings that Aaron Gossage is one of those players, Evan Smith is one of those players, and Silas Schultz's name has been thrown out there. There's also some debate over other players like Kaidi Alsalu, Calvin Longquist, and even Daniel Davidson as being people who are kind of in those silhouettes. People are still holding strong that one of those silhouettes could be Gannon Burr, or that Discraft's going to take Gannon Burr. I don't know if anyone noticed this, but Discmania's store Instagram page dropped a post about Gannon Burr being back for his 3rd season. We haven't seen an official post by Gannon, and it's kind of funny that Discmania's store page would post something like that and kind of take the rob Gannon of the major announcement. I don't know. It's kind of goofy in my mind, but I don't see Gannon Burr going to either one of these teams. And we talked about this already. But there's a lot of debate over who those players are. I like this kind of post because it's stirring up a lot of conversation, especially this late into the off season, of who the players are. When you look down the list, there are a lot of really solid players that are still available that we're not quite sure where they're going to. So I enjoy the conversation around this one. The other big announcement was Discraft putting out, in my opinion, one of the coolest team teases I've ever seen. If you have not seen it, go check out the Discraft Instagram page. The whole loading team Discraft, elite team, error, it's really neat. What they did do, though, is they dropped a little nugget of information that's got the internet spinning a little bit, and that's that they listed 14 molds for their signature series with their elite team. So that's asking the question, does that mean there are going to be 14 elite team members? Which, if you're keeping track, there were 13, with Presnell's demotion. That gets us down, or there were 13. Presnell's demotion, Gossage being away. We're now down to 12 spots available. of players who were there from a previous season. So that leaves 2 spots. Who could they be for? And we know that those spots that are still held that we haven't heard from obviously yet are Ezra Aderhold, Anthony Barella, Chris Dickerson, Missy Gannon, Adam Hammis, Holland Handley, Valerie Mandahano, Paul McBeth, Paige Pierce, Ezra Robinson, Paul Ulibarri, and Ricky Wysocki. I think I could confidently say that most of those players are returning to Discraft. That'd be very strange to see players like Anthony Barella, Missy Gannon, Adam Hammis, Holland, Valerie, Macbeth, Paige, Ulibarri, Ricky, to see any of them leaving, along with Ezra Robinson. Now, there are a couple question marks. People have been saying, what about Ezra Aderhold? Could he be going somewhere else? Same thing like a Chris Dickerson, maybe somewhere else. But we're getting so close to the end of the season that I feel like major departures like that would have been announced already, but who knows? We could still be surprised. I didn't notice any of the MVP silhouettes having absolutely massive musculature, so I don't know if Ezra's going to be part of that list. But of this group, like I said, we have 2 spots available possibly for new team members or for promotions, and one of the largest beliefs right now is that Austin Turner is going to be getting the nod to join the elite team. Given his relative success, he had a pretty solid 2025, not like world breaking, but a pretty solid 2025. He's definitely putting a lot more work in from a social media perspective. A lot of people love his personality, so I could definitely see Austin Turner making that jump up to that team. And there's also a group of people that feel like Silas Schultz is going to be coming here, so that's he's kind of the hot commodity right now between MVP and Discraft of where he's going, because he did say in his video saying he's going to be leaving Discmania that he received an offer that was, in his opinion, great and borderline too good to turn down.
During my off-season talks with me and my team, we were presented with an offer from a brand that was not just a good deal for me given the current climate and state of things. It was just a good deal, and I would say probably a great deal. And it was for sure something that I couldn't pass it up. Couldn't say no.
So is that an MVP thing? Is that a Discraft thing? It remains to be seen. Where do you think that he's going to be going? But other players that are kind of, I would classify as in the wind or we're not quite sure about yet are people like Kevin Jones. While he's not really a fully relevant player on tour in terms of a threat to win anymore, he is that player with a personality that we all kind of, like everyone who was in love with disc golf over the last number of years, we all kind of remember when Kevin Jones was a legitimate threat, and we all want him to get back to that legitimacy, but kind of wondering where he's going to be going. We've heard talks of a few different places, maybe returning to an old sponsor. Corey Ellis is another one, leaving Discraft. It sounds like RPM could be picking up Corey, and that would be really cool for them, for us to see RPM do that. He's down there getting a lot of exposure with them for the Tour Down Under. He has been throwing some other molds outside of his Discraft mold. We've heard of a Destroyer, and I believe he was throwing something else, a lower speed driver. I can't remember if it was not a Firebird, but maybe like a T-Bird or something, or a Thunderbird. I can't remember what they said on coverage, but definitely throwing some stuff that's not Discraft related. But RPM might be the place for Corey Ellis. Zach Nash is another big one in my mind. He is a very promising young player. So, I mean, some people have said, and I believe this truly, one of the best throwers of the disc on tour. And he's getting more momentum. We did a really cool interview with him on Tour Life a while back where he kind of talked about some of his aspirations, and I could see him getting on to a bigger team here. I think he'd be a great asset for a manufacturer to get signed up and get on their roster to allow him to kind of grow into the player that we kind of think he's going to become. And then lastly, I think we have to talk about the European contingent. Nestori Tukkanen, Tuomas Hietanen, Daniel Davidson, and Lauri Lehtinen. There are some other players that there are kind of out there that are European players. I know that, so I believe that Hjalta Jensen just announced that he is going to be returning with Discmania, so he's not on that list anymore. But when you look at those 4 players, there's a lot of talent there between the 4 of them, especially with Daniel Davidson, who I think is really one of the top level talents over the sea right now, across the sea right now. But you definitely can't sleep on someone like Lauri Lehtinen, and the other two are fantastic as well. Discraft has made its opinion very well known that they're expanding into the European market. They want more European players. So I would expect them to at least have made a play at all 4 of these players. But I would really expect to see like Nestori on their list and Daniel Davidson to be on that list. But I wouldn't be surprised if Discraft picks up all 4. I would also not be surprised if MVP definitely grabs one of these players as well, because it's a lot of talent coming up in the European scene, and manufacturers are starting to really understand that. So that's what I believe. Those are kind of the big storylines for contracts that are remaining. But let me know what you think of the players who are left out there. Do you think there are any Discraft players that are just going to be leaving that are going to completely shock our brains? Who do you think the 4 silhouettes are going to be released? And what do you think of MVP doing this kind of thing? Is the silhouettes, is it making it too easy? Is it not? Is it just the right amount of like tease that you want to have with player contract announcements like this? Can you believe we're only 6 weeks away from the Supreme Flight Open? I feel like this offseason has been not as hype as people thought it was going to be, but it's also been really awesome with some of the announcements, like the Powerball announcement and some players moving. But it's been a wild one. We only have 6 weeks left to go. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you go down and you drop a like on the video. Hit that subscribe button. It's really helpful for the growth of our channel. I really thank you for the support. Thank you for being here. And we'll be back next week with more information. We'll be recapping the Australasia Open, updating you by that point on probably some of these announcements from MVP and maybe a final drop from Discraft. And I know there's some big announcements coming with Disc East, as Jay Milley has said that he is going to be releasing the information regarding his non-exclusive sponsor at Disc East. I'm trying to get him to come over and announce it live on the Brixton live stream with us over there. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Remember, if you're going to Disc East, make sure you look me up. I'll be there. I'll be hanging out with Brixton, ripping cards with them, and just hyping things up. You're going to find your boy in the Expo pack, so come on over and get a signature on your card so you can win a sweet prize with Brixton. But I'd love to see you there and get into a little Understable Discourse with you about a few things. But hey, that's been it for me and for Understable Discourse. Thank you once again, and make sure you're going out there and throwing some plastic, you're watching some disc golf, and you're having a good time. I'll catch you later, folks.